Your Atlanta Braves have won 4 games in a row, taking down the St. Louis Cardinals 7-6 to open their series on Monday night. That was wild. Let's talk about it.
This is the Braves Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Atlanta Braves. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the Braves Postcast, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. He's Jake Mastroianni at Shortstop Ball. You can find him as well as Locked On Braves every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. And Jake, the tone that this show was going to take dramatically changed in the last 20 minutes. Atlanta struggled to get anything going against Erick Fedde, a guy that they have absolutely dominated in his career, but then they make it happen with a 5-run 8th inning, including a massive home run from Sean Murphy to blow the game wide open, and then almost lose it again in the 9th. Atlanta comes with a 7-6 win. Before we get into the details of this one, how's your heart rate? How you feeling about this, Jake?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of summed it up in my tweet after the game. I was just laughing hysterically. I think that's all you could do with the way that one ended there. Got a little nervous there. Then you get to the comebacker right in front of the plate. I just felt like it was a hilarious way to end what was a pretty scary situation there after you almost blew it. But yeah, a lot of ups and downs in this one. That's going to be the fun part about baseball, and you get these types of games. But was feeling pretty confident after the Murphy home run, and then things got real scary for a second.
Yeah, so we're going to get to that 9th inning first, but talking about Atlanta struggling against Erick Fedde, the offense just, again, he had an ERA over 10 in his career in like 20 appearances against the Braves. But today, 6 innings pitched, 5 hits, 2 runs, 3 walks, and 3 strikeouts. And the only guy that really seemed to be able to figure out Erick Fedde was Austin Riley. The Braves had 2 hard hit balls in the entire, against Fedde in 6 innings. Both of them were Riley's. His 2-run home run that tied the game at 2 in the 3rd, and then he had I think it was a fly out a little bit later. Obviously, it's a different Erick Fedde than he used to see struggle against the Braves, but it didn't really feel like he was doing anything special. It was just maybe an early off night for the Braves offense.
You know, you look at it, and certainly they weren't great, but early on, I felt like they really had some chances and just didn't take advantage. You had the 2 walks in the first inning, weren't able to get anything there. You had a leadoff single by Michael Harris in the 2nd inning, and he stands there. You capitalize on the leadoff walk in the 3rd with Riley hitting the home run, and then you get a single after that, but then it's a double play, and it felt like that's where I felt like, okay, maybe this offense is going to do what we're used to seeing them do against Erick Fedde. And then even after that, you get another leadoff single by Michael Harris, and he stands there and later gets removed on a double play. So I thought early on they had those chances, they had those moments, but they just couldn't string those hits together. They couldn't put that big hit on Erick Fedde outside of the home run from Austin Riley, like you said. So I thought there were some opportunities, but Fedde was able to work out of it, and the Braves base runners just became pretty stagnant right there. So like I said, I mean, it certainly was, a good job by Fetty. Give him some credit there. And he's a different pitcher now. And I think he's a solid pitcher. He's somebody that during the offseason, I was kind of talking for the Braves maybe to go trade and get a guy like that for the middle back of your rotation. Because I think he kind of gives you that support that you need there. But yeah, the offense just couldn't string the hits together like we've seen them do the past couple of games until that 8th inning.
Yeah, and that's really the turning point of the game. And I'm going to go ahead and give the player of the game nod to Austin Riley, because Alex Verdugo gets struck out to start that inning, and then Austin Riley legs out an infield hit, right? He's thrown out at first base. They challenge it. It's overturned, and he's just barely safe, but he's safe. And that starts the whole big rally. Marcell Ozuna walks. Really smart move in my mind to put Eli White in to run for Marcell Ozuna, and it pays off in a few minutes. Matt Olson hits the single. Riley scores from second. I did think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I do think that when they took out Jordan Walker out of right field and they put Michael Ciani into center and moved Victor Scott over to right, it made it a lot more likely that a guy who's faster than we all think, and Austin Riley, was going to be able to score because you took that big arm of Walker out of right field. I don't know if he would have caught Riley or not, but Victor Scott had no chance.
Yeah, certainly not at that point. Obviously, Walker gives you a little bit better chance. I think Riley was going to score either way. Like you said, he is faster than I think most people realize. But not with that slide that he had at home plate. That was a rough looking slide. I don't know.
That was a Brandon Gaudin inspired slide there.
I don't know if he would have got in there with that one, but yeah, that did change the dynamic a little bit, giving you a weaker arm in right field, giving the Braves a little bit better chance on the sac fly situation.
Yeah, and speaking of that sac fly, felt like a really good at-bat for Michael Harris. I have dogged him a lot this year for the quality of the at-bats, the pitch, the swing decisions, but you could see him first pitch slider, bottom of the zone. He makes a concentrated effort to get the ball in the air, and it's deep enough to score Eli White. Again, if you have Marcell Ozuna running, you probably don't get that additional run there. Turns out it probably wouldn't have mattered because Sean Murphy homers, I believe it was actually the very next pitch. So it was two pitches completely blew that game open. But does something like this, seeing this rally late, it feels like Atlanta has either hit the starter well and struggled against the bullpen, or struggled against the starter and hit the bullpen well. Is this just another data point that supports that? Is this like, we shouldn't be concerned because as long as there's at-bats left, the Braves feel like they're going to be able to battle back and have some sort of success here.
I mean, you can't rely on, big bottom of the eighth innings every time.
It's not a good idea to stick with this, right?
But what I've liked and what I talked about on my podcast today, what I've liked about seeing this offense here in these last 3 games in that 8th inning on Friday night is that it is a continuous pressure that they're putting on the other team. And at some point with this lineup, you're going to get that big inning. You're going to get that crooked number. And I think that's a little bit of what we saw tonight. The at-bats did get kind of stagnant in the middle of the game by the 4th through 7th innings. Like I said, I thought early on they had some chances. They just weren't getting that big hit. And look, I'm not comparing this team to the 2023 team. You never should. That is a historical team. But what that team did really well is that it was every inning somebody was on base and you were one swing away from putting up a big number. Last year was like you might get 1, 2, 3 innings a game where you had an opportunity to score. I mean, that was it. And early on this season too. But now we've seen here in these last 3 games, it is pretty much a continual pressure that they're putting on the pitcher, and every inning that they're getting somebody on, it's just, can you string those hits together or can you run into one with this powerful lineup? And that's really what this offense is about, just giving themselves a chance, almost every inning to put a big number on the board.
Yeah, they go and they obviously that big inning, turning point of the game, Atlanta holds on to win. I do want to get to the pitching, both the starting pitching from Spencer Schwellenbach and Raisel Iglesias in the 9th. We'll do that next, right here on the Braves Postcast. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Monarch Money. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, entertainment, but just buying everyday essentials, it's easy to lose track of where your money goes. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. Think of it as like your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. It's not just a budgeting app. Monarch Money is actually a complete financial command center. That's what they call themselves. You can track all your accounts, your investments, your spending in one place. So you stop just managing your money and you're able to start building wealth. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONMLB for half off your first year. Okay, Jake, we saw a quality outing from Spencer Schwellenbach here. 7 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs. 2 of those were earned. A little bit of some sloppy defensive play by the Braves in there. No walks to 5 strikeouts. This is going to be controversial when I say this. I'm acknowledging that up front. It felt like he got a little bit lucky in this one that it was only 3 runs. I don't remember seeing Spencer Schwellenbach get hit like that. 10 hard hit balls. Just St. Louis was ripping baseballs, and it felt like they were a little unlucky with how many of them fell for hits. Ultimately, still a good outing, right? Quality start. Probably a solid B+, but not just domination like we've expected from Spencer Schwellenbach.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, and that's kind of where I would have gone with it too. And part of that is I don't think it's so much Schwellenbach. I thought the Cardinal, what I was getting ready to come in here and say, and I'm gonna say the same about Iglesias too, although I do think there is some concern with Iglesias that we can get into.
Yeah.
I just thought the Cardinals had a really good at bats all night tonight. I mean, they were on it and squaring up some good pitches from Schwellenbach. I actually thought Schwellenbach looked really good. I thought he made some good pitches. It was a really tight zone tonight. A couple of calls, that didn't go his way. Same on the other side. I know Marmol for the Cardinals ended up getting thrown out in this one, but it was a tight zone. I thought it was pretty fair for the most part. But I thought Swellenbach made some good pitches, and I think you just tip your cap to the Cardinals. I thought they made some good swings. They were very aggressive in this one. I think they swung at 56 of the 97 pitches that he threw, so they were really aggressive against him. But like you said, I mean, it's still 7 innings that he gives you, and that aggressiveness can help that. Defense didn't help him behind him. A couple of errors in there too that certainly would have liked to have those plays been made. But one of the errors to Ozzie, that was the hardest hit ball of the night. It was a tough one by Ozzie there. So again, I think he went 7 innings. He certainly looked good, but I agree with you. I thought he got hit pretty hard in this one. 10 hard hit balls. You don't see that against Spencer Schwellenbach very often.
Yeah, it was that Jordan Walker liner, 112.5. Like you said, hardest hit ball in the game. And Ozzie did a good enough job just really to knock it down and have a chance to make a play, but ultimately didn't get that out. And then Matt Olson having the throwing error to third, trying to back pick on somebody and just air-mailed the ball. Little frustrating there. But either way, Shirley, again, does enough. We're not saying he was bad. We're just kind of acknowledging if we can use the batted ball luck being bad for the Braves as an explanation for why they've underperformed what they should have done, I think it's only fair to do the same thing for the Cardinals here. You mentioned it. I want to get to it. After a relatively clean 8th by Daysabel Hernandez, 1 walk, but relatively clean 8th, Raisel Iglesias comes in the 9th and 3 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, gives up the big home run to Wilson Contreras. I do want to give a caveat here. Is the broadcast confirmed he got hot yesterday. So he was up and then was not used on Sunday. And then he got up here. That's 4 straight days where you got Raisel Iglesias up. That's why they went ahead and used him despite it being a non-save situation. But it feels like he's not quite the same completely locked down, shut down closer that he was last year.
Yeah, no, that's a fair statement to make. He hasn't been nearly as sharp. I think that you can give him a little bit of excuse in this one because it's basically the 4th straight day that he's worked. I mean, you get up and get hot. And I didn't realize that on Sunday either till they said it on the broadcast, but he did get up on Sunday and was ready to go. Then you get him up today and you get him up quickly, which he's a guy that, reliever, and he usually gets up pretty quickly. So I don't know if that's necessarily the excuse for him. But a couple of times this season, he has left some pitches up, and that was the case in this one. Couple of hits that he gave up were on changeups that stayed up in the zone. The home run he gave up was a slider that just kind of hung out over the middle of the plate. So that has been a bit of a problem for Iglesias so far this season. It's usually somebody, it's, a sinker diving down and in, a changeup down and into righties, a slider down and away, and a 4-seamer up at the top. And he's been pretty consistent keeping it down to the bottom of the zone, except for that 4-seamer that he'll throw up top. But so far this season, or I shouldn't say in all of them, but a couple of times where he's gotten in trouble this year is because those pitches have stayed up on him.
Yeah. After the home run, the Brendan Donovan walk, 6 pitches, 2 of them in the zone, 1 taken for a strike, 1 foul, but 4 pitches that were nowhere near the zone, right? Yeah. And so, again, some of that is he's up for a 4th straight day. I remember writing a piece probably a year and a half ago about how poorly he did on a 3rd straight day, never mind a 4th straight day. So definitely a little caveat there.
Had to throw a lot of pitches too. Iggy's one that's usually in and under, 15, 12 pitches most of the time. He's up over 20 pitches in this one.
He's usually very efficient and just not today, but the walk, the extra hits, all of that. Okay, so tomorrow was supposed to be Andre Palante versus Spencer Strider. Strider goes on the IL before today's game with the hamstring strain, suffered while playing catch. We've all done that. I'm old now. I probably will do that tomorrow. The Braves have announced that they're going to go with an opener, but you had to win tonight's game in light of the unknown situation tomorrow, and then everybody's favorite starter, Bryce Elder, going on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, that made this game that much bigger, and the fact that you find out, just minutes before the game that Spencer Strider, you feel really good. You're on a 3-game win streak. You got Swellenbach and Strider back to back. You're feeling pretty confident. And then you find out just for the game that Strider can't go. So that's a huge blow. You just got him back. I know it wasn't a dominant performance, but certainly looked good, and was looking forward to having him in there and getting some good run with him and both Spencers back to back in the rotation. That was fun too. But you had to get this game on Monday, and thankfully they did. And now you don't know what's going to happen in the next two with a bullpen and then Bryce Elder. And obviously we just talked about Iglesias. He's probably unavailable for the next 2 days in this series. So I'm not sure what the Braves are going to do. The offense is going to have to continue to put up 5-run innings.
Yeah, it's going to be we're definitely going to need the bats to close out this series. Again, that game, 7:15, Braves will have an opener. They don't know who it is, against Andre Palante. Standard television broadcast location, Sports South, Sports Southeast on that one. But again, Atlanta Braves, 7-6 victors over the St. Louis Cardinals to take game 1 of the series and extend the win streak to 4 games. Can we make it to 5 tomorrow? Win 1 for the thumb. If you're listening on audio, do us a favor. Leave a 5-star review for Locked On Braves on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever Google uses nowadays. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to both Locked On Sports Atlanta and Locked On Braves so that you can get notified every time we go live to break down another Atlanta Braves win. Until next time, this has been the Braves Postcast.